Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. My phone lit up with the word selfish attached to my name. I am Alex and I was 29 then. The group chat preview flooded my screen and my stomach dropped. I tapped it before I could even breathe twice. At the top sat Jenna's long block of text waiting for me. She had written that we were planning a trip together. She said Mark could not afford it and that sucked. Then she dropped the line that still rings in my head. You make more than all of us so you can help. I read that sentence twice before my brain caught up. Help did not sound like splitting a ride or bringing snacks. Help sounded like paying for the whole thing without arguing. I could already feel the guilt closing in around the ask. I scrolled up and saw the rest of the conversation above it. They had been sending links to flights and talking about dates. Then one line from Kyle hit harder than anything Jenna wrote. If Alex covers Mark, we can finally book this tonight. Seeing my name there made it feel decided before I spoke. My chest tightened and I realized I had not moved at all. They were not asking whether I would join, which was new. They were asking how much of the bill I would absorb. Typing this now, I still feel that first hot flash of anger. Back then I tried hard to be the easy friend who says yes. I hated conflict almost as much as I hated unexpected expenses. So my first instinct was not no, it was how. How do I get out without looking like a selfish monster? While I stared at the screen, the chat bubbles kept appearing. Jenna sent a new line asking if I had seen everything. A little notification popped up that she was typing again already. It felt less like a question and more like a countdown. Then Kyle dropped a message about how stressed Mark had been. He wrote that this trip could really save his mental health. He said we were lucky to have steady jobs unlike Mark. Lucky sounded nice, but it landed like a quiet accusation at me. My jaw clenched and I realized every eye was on my response. No one tagged me by name because they did not need to. We all understood who the stable one was in that sentence. It felt like being volunteered for jury duty with no option out. I flicked over to my banking app without really thinking about it. The numbers were not disastrous, but they were not vacation-proof either. Rent, student loans, and a small emergency fund lined up in my mind. Covering another full ticket meant ripping a hole in that thin safety net. I was not broke, yet every dollar already had a job assigned. None of those jobs involved secretly bankrolling a vacation for someone else. Still, the shame crept in because they talked like it was easy. Saying no felt greedy, saying yes felt stupid, and I hated both. I typed I really cannot do that and then erased the whole thing. I tried maybe I can help with a little and erased again. Every version sounded selfish in my head before anyone even read it. The blinking cursor felt louder than any of their actual messages. Another bubble popped up from Jenna asking if I was really ignoring them. My heartbeat kicked harder because now it was an accusation, not a request. I stared at the words and knew I had to pick a side. In that tiny pause before answering, I could feel our whole friendship shifting. I finally wrote, "Can we talk about this later?" and hit send. Jenna replied sure and added, "We will figure it out together." That together made my stomach twist because I knew what it really meant. I did not know yet that later would mean a corner booth and an ultimatum. Jenna waved me over before I could pretend not to notice. She already sat at the far side of the booth. The only open spot was the one that trapped me inside. By the time I slid in, my pulse was already loud. She skipped any kind of hello and went straight in. So she tapped the table about the trip situation. My throat tightened because I had hoped for at least small talk. Stupid hope, but still it stung when she went right for it. "You saw the prices." Her fingers drummed a quick rhythm between us. "Mark's freaking out, he cannot swing this, not even close." She watched my face like she was tracking every twitch and blink. I tried to keep neutral, which always makes me look guilty. I picked up a menu just to have something in my hands. "Yeah, I saw." My voice came out thinner than I wanted. "I'm still figuring my own part out, timing is tight." That was true, but it also felt like a weak shield. Jenna leaned in like we were plotting something secret and heroic. "Come on, your job is solid, you got that big raise." She tossed it out there like a compliment with a knife inside. "You confront his share and he gets to actually come." That word front hit me harder than I expected in that moment. She did not say loan or split or anything with limits. It sounded open-ended, like the money would just disappear quietly. Like my account was a community fund and I just had access. I tried humor because that is my usual escape hatch under pressure. So I'm the charity foundation now, should I print forms? I forced out a laugh that died halfway, which made it worse. Jenna did not laugh, she just raised one eyebrow at me. You're acting like we asked you to buy a house. She spread her hands in this little offended shrug that she does. It's a few hundred, you make that back in no time. My jaw clenched again, and I realized she had already done math. She kept going before I could cut in and reset anything. He has been really low lately, you know that already. This would give him something to look forward to for once. Her eyes softened on that part, which made me feel like a villain. Here is the ugly part, a tiny piece of me agreed with her. I know what it feels like to stare at numbers and panic. I know how heavy it is when everyone else seems fine. So the guilt did not come from nowhere, it came preloaded. Still, the way she framed it made my skin crawl up my neck. It was never presented as our problem, just mine with a smile. Why does it have to be all or nothing from me? I let the question hang and I could tell she heard the edge. She exhaled through her nose, that frustrated sound she makes when traffic stops. Because you know Kyle is barely covering his own ticket already. And you know how Mark's job has been, zero stability. She took a sip of her drink, then added the real punch. Out of all of us, you're the only one actually comfortable. Comfortable, that word landed heavier than rich ever would for me. Comfortable erased every bill, every late-night check of my balance. Comfortable made it sound like I had no right to hesitate. I could feel heat rising in my face, which she definitely noticed. I am not swimming in cash here, the words came out sharper. I want to go, but I'm not volunteering as sponsor. Her mouth tightened at the word sponsor and I knew I hit something. There it was, the crack in the polite tone she kept using. So what, you just leave him behind again? Her voice dropped lower. There are 4 spots, 3 of us go, 1 stays home. She nudged the menu away from my hands, forcing my eyes up. You are really okay with that picture, really? She knew exactly where to push, that part still annoys me now. I hate the idea of someone sitting out while the rest posts photos. I could already see the comments and inside jokes in awkward silence. And I knew if he stayed back, they would quietly pin it on me. I stalled by asking about details she had already sent me earlier. Did you actually book anything yet, or is this all theoretical? We locked in the hotel, she answered, tapping her phone for emphasis. So flights are the last piece, and Mark is holding everything up. There it was, not said directly, but clear enough for anyone listening. If I refused, I was the reason the plan stalled and cracked. If I agreed, the group rolled forward and I got to be generous. They had framed it so there was no option that did not stain me. A server came by and we both ordered on autopilot just to pause. I watched Jenna scroll through her messages without really looking. She was giving me space, but also waiting like a loaded question. My brain kept bouncing between my bank app and her expectant face. I could maybe cover part of it, I finally heard myself say. Not everything, maybe a chunk so it is easier for him. That was not what I wanted to offer, it just slipped out. Her shoulders relaxed, and I realized I had already given ground. A chunk is not enough if he still panics and bails. She shook her head like we were talking about a group project deadline. We need certainty here, otherwise we lose the better rates again. Her eyes narrowed slightly, you can do more than a chunk. I swallowed hard and the drink in front of me tasted wrong. Just because I can stretch does not mean I should. My hand tensed around the glass until my knuckles showed white. If I cover the whole thing, that is a big deal for me. She leaned back, studying me like I was a puzzle that changed shape. I honestly thought you would jump at this without overthinking it. You are usually the first one to pick up extras. There was no accusation in her tone, which somehow hurt even more. This was the moment I realized they never really saw the strain. Every time I quietly grabbed the tab, it rewired their expectations. What felt like kindness from me became standard procedure for them. Now pushing back looked like a personality change instead of self-protection. I wish I could say I stood up and ended it right there. I wish I could tell you I named the boundary clearly. Instead, I told her I needed a day to run numbers again. I promised to answer before they hit purchase on anything important. Her smile returned, but it did not reach her eyes at all. Fine, think it over, just remember how much this would mean. As late, E picked up her phone and typed something with quick, confident swipes. My screen buzzed in my pocket seconds later and my chest tightened again. Our group thread lit up with a new message from her immediately. Alex is checking things and will probably help make this happen. Reading that line, I felt the ground tilt a little in my mind. I did not know it yet, but that small probably would explode later. I dropped my keys on the counter and pulled out my phone. The group chat still sat open at the last message. Jenna's promise about me helping stared back like a contract. My throat felt thick and I went straight to the Money app. The balance looked okay at first glance, nothing dramatic screaming danger. Then I started adding numbers in my head while my thumb moved. Flight there and back, hotel split, ride to and from the airport. Time off without overtime, food that was not instant noodles every night. Stacked together, it was already more than I wanted to admit. Then I punched in what covering Mark would look like on top. The total for 2 people flashed on the screen in one cold line. I watched my so-called cushion shrink down to something flimsy. One surprise bill after that, and I would be right back scrambling. The thought made my shoulders lock like I was bracing for impact. I flipped from the Money app to my messages with a fast swipe. In the search bar, I typed back and hit enter. Old threads popped up with lines highlighted in pale gray promise. I'll get you next week. Send me your handle later, I swear I'll remember. I opened one from last summer without thinking it through. There was a receipt shot for concert tickets I had grabbed. Under it, a joke about me being the sponsor for fun nights. Then a string of laughing emojis and nothing after that from anyone. My chest felt heavy in that weird slow way, not dramatic, just tired. Another search result showed a birthday dinner from months before that. The total was way over what I pretend is my going out limit. I saw my own message, I covered it, just split it when you can. Below it, more distractions, memes, plans, everything except the actual split. Reading all that together, it finally clicked that this was not random. Here is the ugly truth I kept pushing away at the time. I liked being the one who could smooth things over with cash. It made me feel useful, kind of grown up, kind of steady. I had leaned into that role so much I never checked the cost. And now they treated it like a permanent feature of who I was. I backed out of the old threads and reopened our current group chat. The same string about the trip filled the screen from top to bottom. Flights, jokes, emojis, then that line about me probably making it happen. Beneath it, the little text box waited for me like a dare. For a second, I actually thought about just turning off my phone. Instead, I tapped the box and forced my fingers to move anyway. Hey, I went through my numbers. I paused, deleted, went through, and wrote looked instead. Hey, I looked at my numbers and I can't pay for someone else's whole trip. I stared at the sentence, trying to decide if it sounded harsher than I meant. I added another line, then erased it because it sounded like an apology. I did not want to apologize for not handing over hundreds of dollars. I tried again. I can cover my own costs, but I can't take on another full share. That felt closer to fair, even though my stomach twisted while I read it. It still felt incomplete, like I was dodging the real problem under everything. Because it was not just about this one ask, and I knew that. So I took a breath and typed the thing that scared me to say. Honestly, I have started to feel more like the group bank than a friend. My thumb hovered above send, and every part of me screamed to water it down. I thought about changing bank to backup or something softer than that. Changing it would have made the message easier for them to swallow. Leaving it blunt would make it harder for me to slide out later. In that tiny pause, I could feel the whole dynamic tightening around me. Then I hit send before I could give myself another escape route. The 3 lines appeared in the chat one after another with a tiny whoosh. Delivered popped up under them while the typing indicator stayed stubbornly dark. The silence from that empty space burned almost more than any comeback. I set the phone face down on the table, but I did not move away. I knew the answers were coming, and I knew they would not be gentle. First reply landed before I could even flip the phone. The notification bar filled with the group thread at the top. Jenna's name flashed, then a new line popped under my last one. I opened it and felt my heartbeat slam against my ribs. Her first sentence hit like a slap I should have expected. Wow, that bank line was pretty brutal, especially toward Mark. Then another message appeared from her before. I could breathe again. She wrote that she did not realize I thought they were using me. Next line said she was disappointed I reduced friendship to dollars. She reminded me how often they had been there emotionally whenever I struggled. The irony almost made me laugh, but my jaw simply locked instead. I sat there listening to the buzz in my ears, feeling cornered again. Before I could answer, Kyle jumped in with his wall of text. He wrote that I was overreacting and that nobody forced me before. According to him, I had always offered because I cared most. Reading that, I realized he truly believed generosity worked like a permanent subscription. Kyle added that Mark would never forgive this kind of refusal. My chest felt tight again, but this time there was anger mixed in. I bit the inside of my cheek and watched new dots appear below. Another bubble loaded, and I knew exactly who it would be. A notification from a private chat slid over the group window. Mark had messaged me directly instead of answering where everyone could read. For a second I hoped he would take pressure off, maybe tell them to drop it. That fantasy lasted exactly until I opened his first sentence. Yo, I heard about your messages, that really stung. He wrote that he never thought of me as some kind of ATM. Then he added that it still hurt that I saw him as a burden. Seeing those words, my gut twisted harder than anything from Jenna or Kyle. I wanted to defend myself right away and dump everything on them. I wanted to say they had volunteered my savings before asking once. My thumbs hovered above the keyboard while my brain scrambled for clean words. Nothing sounded right that did not also sound like an attack on him. While I stalled in his chat, the main thread exploded again. Jenna dropped another line about how community means stepping up when you are able. She followed with a question asking if I really believed they were exploiting me. Kyle reacted to that with some crying emoji and a gif I did not open. My brain started doing that thing where every version of me looks awful. If I gave in, I was reckless with money again just to keep them happy. If I held the line, I was cold and calculating and selfish. Both options felt like losing, but only one protected my future self. I clicked back into Mark's chat and forced myself to answer him first. I typed that I cared about him and wanted him there, but I could not fund his whole vacation. I explained that covering another ticket would wipe out the only safety I had built. I left out the part where their constant borrowing already chipped away at that safety. He answered fast, almost like he had been staring at the screen waiting. I get it, but this really sucks, was his first line. Then he wrote that he wished my promotion had not changed how I saw everyone. That sentence dug under my skin more than the money talk did. While I tried to think of a reply, notifications kept rolling from the main thread. One message suggested maybe I could cover the deposit at least so they could book. Another suggested I could treat this as an early birthday gift for him. They had moved from asking to brainstorming ways to wrap it in pretty language. Something inside me finally snapped a little in a very quiet way. I scrolled through every new comment, then typed back into the group thread. I already said I am not paying for two people, I wrote. Please stop trying to repackage the same ask. For a long minute nothing appeared, which somehow felt worse than the constant guilt. Then Jenna reacted with a short wow followed by a long row of dots. Kyle added that he never realized I kept score so closely with friends. Reading that, I felt my face heat up despite knowing they were twisting things. I wanted to throw my phone into a drawer and ignore all of them. I wanted to message someone outside the group and ask if I was losing it. Instead, I just sat at the table, watching that screen like it controlled my whole life. I remember thinking, if they are this angry now, what happens on the actual trip? Mark stopped replying after that last point about my promotion and priorities. His silence felt different from their loud messages, heavier and more personal. I stared at our empty chat and knew this would not stay in texts. The real conversation was coming, and it was going to be out loud. I hit call before I could lose my nerve again. The dial tone barely rang twice before he picked up. Yeah, short, flat, no greeting, just that one clipped sound. My hand shook enough that I set the phone on the table. Can we talk about this without the group watching? I heard movement on his end, like he sat up fast. So now you want privacy after dropping that line about being used. The way he said used made my whole body go rigid. I should have said it sooner, not in the chat. I forced the words out slow, trying not to babble. I care about you, Iwa. And you there, but I can't cover your whole vacation. The last part came out sharper than planned, which might be good. He let out a breath that dragged through the speaker. So that's it, you are done helping people who are struggling. I closed my eyes because hearing it framed like that hurt. It is not about being done, it's about not going broke quietly. Silence stretched, then he laughed once, quick and humorless. You think paying for one trip will destroy your entire life. I almost snapped back, but I caught myself right before. This trip on top of everything else, yeah, it wrecks my margin. There was a pause long enough that I almost checked the screen. Then his voice came through softer, like he deflated a little. They told me you would probably handle it without making it weird. The word probably landed heavier than he seemed to realize. I stared at the phone, pulse hammering in my ears. So they promised my money before asking me directly, great. I pushed my chair back with a screech I did not intend. Did you tell them I would, or did they just decide? He hesitated and I could hear it, even through the tiny speaker. I said you usually step up when things get tight. That you are generous and that you won't let friends miss things. My throat went dry because that part was actually true and ugly. Do you understand how that sounds from my side now? I stood and started pacing, needing somewhere to put the energy. If I keep doing that, it stops being kindness and becomes expectation. It turns me into this walking card that everyone plans around. He stayed quiet for a few seconds, then muttered something low. It was not meant to trap you, you know that. I just did not want to stay home again while you all traveled. His voice cracked slightly on again, and that part cut deep. Here is the part where I almost gave in again. Because hearing him sound small like that twisted every guilty instinct. I pictured him scrolling through trip photos while working some miserable shift. For a moment, I literally tasted that old urge to fix everything. But then I remembered sitting alone with my banking app open. I remembered every "I'll hit you back later" that never came. I remembered Jenna calling my refusal brutal while spending money on her own plans. All of it lined up at once, and something finally held steady. I can afford my share, and that's it, that is my limit. I will still go if you decide to, I want that. But I will not put myself back at zero to make this happen. The words came out clear, and I did not soften them this time. He did not argue right away, which surprised me more than if he yelled. I hate that it is coming down to numbers, he murmured. I thought we were tighter than that, that you trusted me. I swallowed hard because that part was not completely wrong either. I do trust you, I do not trust this pattern anymore. Me quietly paying, everyone assuming, no one noticing unless I stop. That is not friendship, that is me paying for access. The second I said it, I knew there was no walking that back. There was a long stretch where I only heard him breathing. Then he cleared his throat once, twice, like he was buying time. Okay, then I'm not going either, he finally answered. If I cannot swing my own way, I am staying home. I sank back into the chair, shoulders dropping for the first time. So you are sure, no half payments, nothing weird from me? No, he sounded tired now, not angry, which almost hurt more. I am not letting them dangle me on your paycheck. For a second, a strange calm settled over both of us. We were still tense, but at least the script had changed. We were no longer arguing about whether I would fund him. We were facing the fact that the others had counted on exactly that. Are you going to tell them, or do you want me to? I already knew how Jenna would spin whichever version reached her first. I will text, he answered, then added, and I will mention I turned it down. That last part sounded like protection, and I am still grateful for it. 10 minutes later, the group thread lit up in a fresh wave. Mark dropped a message saying he was out, that it was too expensive. He added, Alex offered help, I declined, so drop it already. Seeing that line, I exhaled so hard my chest actually hurt. Jenna reacted with disbelief right away, then moved to frustration at him. She wrote that he was throwing away an amazing chance over pride. Then she turned it, of course, adding that I had poisoned the mood. According to her, my bank comment had shifted the whole energy. Kyle chimed in that they would still book, just the two of them. He said it would be less fun, but they needed the getaway. Then he tossed in a final little jab about some people forgetting loyalty. I read it twice, then hit mute on the entire thread. The trip happened without us a few weeks later, just like they planned. I saw photos through mutual friends, everyone smiling around rented cabanas. No one sent them directly, but the internet has its own way. Each picture stung for a few seconds, then faded faster than I expected. Contact with Jenna and Kyle shrank down to the occasional lazy meme. No more constant planning, no more last minute can you spot me. They never apologized for the pressure, and I never reopened that topic. We just let the distance grow inch by inch, message by message. Mark and I stayed awkward for a while after that phone call. We still texted, just shorter, with more pauses between conversations. Then one weekend, he sent a link to a cheap cabin upstate. Thinking of saving for this next year all on my own, he wrote. When I read that, something unknotted in my chest for real. It was the first plan that did not secretly include my income. I told him I would be there if the timing worked. And this time I meant only my ticket, nothing hidden behind it. Looking back now, I know I did the only thing that made sense. I kept a roof over my head and refused to be their purse. But there is still a small part of me that wonders at night. In their version of the story, am I just the greedy friend who finally said no?